or they'll go to management and say, well, that's crazy. There's not mind control. I wrote about it in 77, programming and all that. I had no background on it. So people, you would think, would ask, well, how does she know all this? Because it proves itself, really, the murders do and the patterns they're in. Um, Nowadays, you on YouTube, or you can Google mind control and MK Ultra, and there's a lot of doctors. Well, I don't know about a lot that are honest and try to tell the truth, and other people that write about mind control. So it's not that it's almost like UFOs. Don't talk about it. I don't know if there's UFOs, but there's certainly something. If they're not UFOs, and then what is it? Why have all these people seen things? They should ask what's the mechanism used. Then all these people didn't lie. Mind control is very real, and people just don't want to deal with it because no one's immune to it. Okay. So anyway, this morning I'm sitting there, and I've been afraid anymore. I told about it, and I had my repercussions and everything. I don't know if my life would have been any different. It's who I am. And they certainly don't want me to go home and all this be told about my kidnapping and torture and the takedown of my father, what really happened. My God, they changed history. When you can do that, I was kidnapped at 2 years old and brought over here. That's all been covered up in 99-year seal. Somewhere along the line, someone could have told the truth. My father married my mother. I'm not sure the year, but he was married to her in 36, and the whole thing was a lie about Wallace Simpson marrying my father. She married a double imposter. So when you can control the media like that, go in the library and look at how many books have been written about my father, who's not really my father. Not 1 ounce of truth has been written about him. And they've done the same thing to me here. So this morning, as an example, I'm sitting over there, and by the way, it's snow and it's cold and everything here in Roanoke. But I'm sitting there, and there's a couple that are talking. There's two couples that were next to me that were talking, and one said, well, they were from up on the mountain. This is mountainous area, and they came down because of the snow, because they couldn't get out of the driveway, and I believe that. So they came down here to spend a night or two. The other couple, I believe, was from out of state, but they were talking, and they started talking about the two men had been in the army. They mentioned Kennedy, and then my ears perk up because the Kennedys are who kidnapped me and caused all this hell, and people look up to them. I mean, it is a slap in the face to try to tell people what's been done to me and my family and country, and they just really don't give a care. And when you're on a 1-to-1, they'll tell you that. It's so cold. A doctor, before they put the antifreeze in me the day before, called me. Now, whether he knew they were going to do that, I don't know. But he told me, he said, people would help you, but they're afraid of repercussions. He said, this is an example. People will give to, like, shelters. They'll give food at times. They'll be a big brother, or they'll give to United Way. But when it comes to their fear of their family or them, they'll walk away, turn their back on you, and would cut your throat in a heartbeat. And that's true. Uh, wow. But they were sitting there talking, and then when they were talking about the Kennedys, and it's so hard, and them being in the service and all that. Of course, they weren't old enough to be in Normandy and all that, but they were talking, and I couldn't help but hear them. And I'm trying not to let myself get upset and say anything. And then they said something about the Brits, and I couldn't, I had to get up and leave it. I ended up turning my milk over, and I cleaned it up and got up and left and came back to the room. I'm not allowed to say anything. Or if you talk about mind control, you talk about any of this, I've got the proof. So I ended up bringing up Larry Flint because he did a endorsement, and I was in a political campaign. And one of the doctors I wrote about, Larry McDonald, the U.S. congressman that his plane was shot down in August 31st of '83. He was on the Korean jet passenger, and the Soviet jet shot it down because it veered out of airspace. Well, you can do that with mind control. But anyway, all aboard died. Well, it gets into a pattern of even this. Here I had written about him and mind control, and now I'm flown out to Flint's, and Flint helps me in the campaign to replace him. Of course, I didn't win the campaign, so Larry Flint at least tried to help, but then he was shot. And he says that in the endorsement, it was April of '84, that I know who was responsible for his shooting. Well, the man was programmed. Actually, he's a victim, so it's the government agencies that are doing it. But my point before I go here is that you won't walk into restaurants or library anywhere and hear anyone talk about mind control. Everything is good still here in the United States, so they're going to go with it. None of the media is going to get up and resign on air like the two did in Russia that were Americans. Yesterday or the day before, said they were proud to be Americans and they were going to resign because of what's going on in Ukraine and with Russia. Well, not one here has ever been really nice to me at all. One reporter years ago, and really he's FBI, helped save my life. I will say that, the one. Other than that, I've beat the doors down to the media. I have spent money when I didn't have it, a crawl to fax. And by the way, I'm going to put this one in the last year, and I'm going to go. My point is that if this were ever told to the whole world, who benefits from it? It gets to the point where you pay the price. Why let people that didn't want to hear it, who wouldn't give you an ounce of their time, and so you get the gist of it. And just before I go, and this is just one of them, I'm going to mention Scott Peterson. And I think he had a good attorney, Martin Garrigus. But he's on death row. And Scott Peterson is not responsible for those murders, and it can be proven, just like the others that I talk about that are done in patterns.